Peoples of the worldwide federated internet. What's good? There is definitely some strange things going on in the United States of America. I cannot explain it all. I have a lot of opinions about a lot of this stuff. My opinions may be right, my opinions may be wrong. I want to try, I don't know if my computer is going to allow me to do it. I want to try to go to this video from the Surgeon General, and I want you to hear some of the comments that he's made. I'm going to probably pause the video and make some comments. So what spawned this is me seeing everything going on surrounding the issue of tech censorship. Now, I try not to lose my mind over this stuff, and I try not to do what many people do and go, Chicken Little, sky's falling, everything's falling apart. But I can't help but notice when things are happening. I notice these things. I can't act like a ostrich and stick my head in the sand and just act as though I don't see any of this and I don't hear any of this. So Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, made a comment. I heard her comment. I can't remember the exact comment. You can find it on the White House YouTube channel, where she was talking about, I don't want to misquote her, but the gist of what she was saying is they are assisting Facebook. This is the White House, right? So this is the government. They are assisting Facebook in flagging medical misinformation. Now, yeah, there may be some people out there that are disseminating medical misinformation. That may be true. The problem I have is we have a First Amendment that protects our freedom of speech. This means I can say things that you may not like, and this also means I can say things that may or may not be 100% true. So pretty much I'm allowed to be wrong. What the idea of the government colluding with a private business to censor the speech of private citizens is really dangerous. It's really dangerous. And again, I'm not going to Stuart Little, sky's falling. I'm not going to do that, but that is dangerous. Big problems normally start with small issues. And that's kind of what I see with the country is we have a big problem looming in the horizon that's really starting out and spawning with small issues. So I want to go to this video from the Surgeon General, and here's some of the things that he says.
As all of you know, we've come a long way in our fight against COVID-19, and we've come a long way thanks to the efforts of many, many people across communities in the United States. Right now, we are seeing COVID deaths markedly down from their peak in January. We have 160 million people who have been fully vaccinated, and hundreds of thousands of people each day are choosing to get vaccinated. That is all good news. But we are not out of the woods yet. Millions of Americans are still not protected against COVID-19, and we are seeing more infections among those who are unvaccinated.
Okay, so the first problem I have is how he sold this. So he said they're seeing more infections with those who are unvaccinated. All right, I don't have the data in front of me right now, so let's just assume that what he's saying is true. Okay, right? That's true. By implication, he's saying that if you get vaccinated, you will not have a problem with being infected with COVID. Now, maybe that's not what he's saying. And I could be seeing that wrong, right? Because he said they're seeing let me play back what he said, because I don't want to misquote the guy. So I'm gonna rewind a little bit and I'm gonna play what he said again.
We have 160 million people who have been fully vaccinated, and hundreds of thousands of people each day are choosing to get vaccinated. That is all good news. But we are not out of the woods yet. Millions of Americans are still not protected against COVID-19, and we are seeing more infections among those who are unvaccinated.
Okay, so he said they're seeing more infections among those who are unvaccinated. So it could be that he's not saying that the vaccinated aren't getting infected, but that they're seeing more infections by those who are vaccinated or who are not vaccinated. Okay, my major issue is now I don't know this gentleman's stance on abortion, so I'm not gonna blanketly lump him into this category. I would not be surprised if he's in this category, but I don't want to lump him into this category. But there are many people that argue when it comes to abortion, my body, my choice. Right now, I personally believe that abortion is in fact murder. That's what I believe. That's a life. And I'm at the point where I don't think that's just what I believe. That is the truth. This is a life that you are choosing to end. Now you get into all kind of territories where if there's a situation where a spouse has to choose, right? Like let's say there's a problematic pregnancy and a spouse has to choose either keep your wife alive, or if she goes through with this full term, she's gonna die. Now that's another situation that can definitely be discussed amongst those people. But arbitrarily deciding, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm just gonna go abort this, that's murder. You don't have to agree with me, although I will say I don't think this is a matter of subjective truth, right? I think this is just true. That is what it is. Now, with that said, many people argue my body, my choice. I don't know that this gentleman is in that category. He may or may not be. What I do find interesting is some of the same people arguing my body, my choice are telling you you need to get vaccinated. If you don't get vaccinated, you're somehow threatening someone else's life by not getting vaccinated. I don't necessarily believe that's true, but let's hear further what this gentleman has to say.
And that's why I want to talk to you today about one of the biggest obstacles that's preventing us from ending this pandemic. Today, I issued a Surgeon General's advisory on the dangers of health misinformation.
Okay, so my video's kind of jumping there, but it issued an advisory about health misinformation. This is the red flag for me, and this is a problem. Again, I try to be rational when I look at a lot of these videos, and I try to be rational in my approach as far as what I think. There may not be some nefarious plan by a bunch of bad actors that are doing small things that will lead to a big thing that will lead to the overthrow of the country. I don't know that. There may or may not be. I don't have any inside information, so I can't say. I know sometimes people look for other people to have dogmatic stances on certain things. And the problem with that is if I don't have 100% irrefutable proof of something, now I can have circumstantial evidence, and there can be several things that I can look at and say, if I put these things together, if I analyze what was said, if use some common sense and some sound reasoning, this is a possibility, and I don't have a problem with that. There's a lot of possibilities that may not be true. There are things that I thought or possibilities in the past that have come out to be wrong, right? So I can't speak with 100% authority, but I don't like the fact that we have a White House briefing where they are talking about misinformation. This is the reason I don't like it. Again, let's go back to freedom of speech. I have the right constitutionally, right? The supreme law of our land. This is a secular country. This is not a Christian nation. So I'm not arguing this from a biblical perspective. I believe the Bible. I am a Christian, but I'm not arguing this from a biblical perspective. I'm going according to the law of our land. The U.S. Constitution recognizes the right of every citizen of the United States to speak freely, right? The right to speak freely is not supposed to be abridged. Let me open my Constitution and read that exactly. All right, so the First Amendment of the United States Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, no state religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Whatever religion you choose to practice, that's up to you. Or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. And because we don't use words like abridging today, and I realize that some may not know what that word means, that word abridging means shortening, lessening, depriving, debarring. So the government has no constitutional authority to curtail anything I say, no matter what it is. It may be something inflammatory. It may be something that they don't like. Now, I understand we have laws that cover defaming someone's character and things of that nature. Right? But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about information. If I say something that's wrong, maybe I believe I'm right, and I've yet to get to the point where I get more information and realize that I'm wrong. What the government is saying is, I am not allowed to be wrong. This is a very totalitarian approach. And I'm not saying that this is this gentleman's or the Biden administration's goal. I don't know that. What I will say is this is dangerous, and this is definitely how you get down that path. Let's continue.
Surgeon General advisories are reserved for urgent public health threats. And while those threats have often been related to what we eat, drink, and smoke, today we live in a world where misinformation poses an imminent and insidious threat to our nation's health.
So I have thought, and other people have thought, that the pandemic has been used as a. Now, I'm not saying that the pandemic was made up. That's not what I'm saying. But many people believe that the pandemic has been used as a Trojan horse to get other things in. Now, to lump misinformation in with a health crisis, that's a stretch, in my opinion. That's a huge stretch. And again, I'm making efforts and how I'm conveying my thoughts to not do the Chicken Little, skies falling, it's all falling apart. That's not what I want to do. But I do want people to pay attention to what's going on, and I'm trying to draw your attention to that. Let's see what else he has to say.
Health misinformation is false, inaccurate, or misleading information about health, according to the best evidence of
Okay, so looking at the First Amendment, how could you in any way argue that the First Amendment covers everything but misinformation? It covers everything but things that are misleading. Is misleading information sometimes dangerous at times? Yeah, it is. Is misleading information sometimes not helpful? Often it's not. The problem is, I cannot remember the quote, and I can't remember who exactly the quote came from. And I'm probably going to slaughter it. And I'm sure somebody out there remembers who exactly said it. I think it was attributed to one of the founding fathers, but a lot of quotes are attributed to the founding fathers and it didn't actually come from them. So I don't know where this came from, but I think the quote is actually very on point for this time. I will take dangerous freedom over comfortable slavery. And it seems like the argument that's being made by many politicians, and this is not a matter of left, right, libertarian, Republican, Democrat, liberal, many politicians. This encompasses all. Many politicians are often arguing for from a standpoint of this will keep everybody safe if we just curtail this one right. The problem with that is when you look historically, it has always been argued by many countries that have devolved into dictatorship. It is often started with, we're doing this for the safety of the people. We're doing this for the safety of this. We're doing this for the safety of that. And in that regard, rights are given up, rights are curtailed in the name of safety. That's dangerous. It may not always be that there's a plan behind the scenes and people getting together to send the country in a certain direction. And it may just be that there's many air quote leaders who are ignorant to the fact that this leads in a certain direction. And historically, this is where this goes. See what else he has to say.
Time. And while it often appears innocuous on social media apps, on retail sites, or search engines, the truth is that misinformation takes away our freedom to make informed decisions about our health and the health of our loved ones.
Okay, so this is a nonsensical argument, in my opinion. And this argument is given from a place of lack of accountability. What I mean by that is, if you tell me if I walk out into the street and don't look both ways, I will not get hit by a car, and I walk out into the street, don't look both ways, and get hit by a car, are you partly responsible for that? Yeah, you lied to me. But I have to own up the responsibility of not looking into what you said, especially dealing with something that could be harmful, right? You told me I'll be safe if I do this. If I just believe you, if this is a matter of safety, then this is something that I probably need to get some more opinions on. The way he's arguing this point, I do not think is adequate and I do not think is accurate. Yes, there's misinformation out there. There's misinformation about a whole bunch of things. I've seen a whole bunch of things concerning health and medical reports. There's misinformation about what foods are helpful. There's misinformation about what diets are helpful. There's misinformation about what workouts are helpful. But for some reason, all of a sudden, right now, this misinformation is some kind of, imminent threat health crisis. I do not believe that. Now, I'm not saying, because I don't believe that he has some ulterior behind the scenes conspiracy motive. I don't know that. What I do know is I believe this man is wrong. Not only wrong, I think this man is dead wrong.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, health misinformation has led people to resist wearing masks in high-risk settings.
Okay, so I wanted to stop there because in saying this, he just contradicted himself. And this is why I say that. There have been studies by universities, medical professionals, people who are well versed in this field of disease prevention on mask wearing and its effectiveness or ineffectiveness. And there's conflicting studies from professionals. The thing that I'm noticing about a lot of people in Washington and the Washington circle is there's this idea that science can't be questioned. Why that is so ridiculous is because some of the greatest scientific discoverers that we know question things, and that's how they figured things out. But there is this growing idea that these people have, that their ideas can't be questioned. What they say can't be questioned. That is a problem. It is almost as though there's some people that don't want you to think. Again, I am not telling you there's some nefarious motive behind this. There's some grand conspiracy. What I'm also not saying, I am not saying that that is off the table. I don't like when people make it seem like a grand conspiracy is out of the realm of possibility. Like, do we not know anything about history? Do we not know about what happened in Rome? We have more examples than not in history of grand conspiracies to overthrow governments, kings, rulers. But now all of a sudden, we have reached a point of enlightenment when conspiracies are impossible. Again, not saying that there is a conspiracy, but I don't like the argument of, oh, that's just some crazy conspiracy theorist, as if conspiracies aren't a thing.
It's led them to turn down proven treatments and to choose not to get vaccinated. This has led to avoidable illnesses and death. Simply put, health information has cost us lives. Now, health.
I have another problem with this. Now, I had a job, a traveling job for 10 years. Now, with that traveling job, I traveled to different countries, and because of that, I was required to keep up with vaccinations, general vaccinations that you get when you're a kid or what have you. Now, before that, when I got out of the military, I decided I am never getting a flu vaccine ever again. I decided this on my own. It wasn't because of some misinformation. Me personally, the first time I received the flu vaccine, I was in basic training, got sick as a dog. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that every single time I got the flu vaccine, I got sick. But I will tell you, more often than not, when I got the flu vaccine, I was sick. Now, I understand vaccines, dead strains of viruses, what it does to for your body to fight it off and build up immunities. I get all of that. But I had a problem with that. I was like, I keep getting this thing and I keep getting sick. I'm not getting this anymore, right? There's many people I know who will not get the flu vaccine. They've always been that way. And yeah, you have some people that have, maybe told jokes, clowned them maybe a little bit, said some things, but it wasn't really a big deal. Now, all of a sudden, with this COVID vaccine, now there's a big deal when people don't want it. How about people just don't want to get the vaccine? That should be a matter of personal choice, and that should be in the story. This, again, the same way these same people argue. I'm not saying this gentleman, again, I don't know where he stands on abortion, but I'm just saying in general, many people who argue that you should get the vaccine also argue when it comes to abortion, their body, their choice. Interesting.
Misinformation didn't start with COVID-19. What's different now, though, is the speed and scale at which health misinformation is spreading. Modern technology companies have enabled misinformation to poison our information environment with.
Okay, so my video is pausing a little bit, so I'm gonna stop it. Kind of give my computer some time to catch up. I'm on my laptop. It doesn't really operate that optimally in these situations, which is why I don't have my video up along with this video right here. But he is about to say something, and I'm gonna give a comment after he says it. But when he said it, my ears perked up.
Little accountability to their users. They've allowed people who intentionally spread misinformation, what we call disinformation, to have extraordinary reach. They've designed product features, such as like buttons, that reward us for sharing emotionally charged content, not.
Now, here's the interesting thing about that. If you were paying attention at all during 2020, during many other riots that happened across the country, people shared information about George Floyd, police brutality. It was liked, celebrated by many people. No one in the mainstream seemed to have a problem with this. The moment you question something that is in line with the mainstream, they have a problem with it. Now, all of a sudden, there's a problem with the like feature on these social media apps. Now, I'm not trying to sell you. I'm not trying to tell you that there's something behind the scenes or this is going on or that's going on. I'm just telling you what I think. What I think is not law. What I think is not absolute truth, right? What's funny is when Joe Biden got inaugurated, and again, I'm not trying to make this left, right, Republican, Democrat, Biden versus this person, that person. I'm just telling you what I saw. When Biden got elected, the White House YouTube channel got ratioed heavy. If you don't know what ratioed is, it's the like to dislike ratio on videos. The inauguration was disliked so many more times than liked that I believe they started deleting dislikes. I even did a video about this. I remember I was literally watching. I saw how many dislikes the inauguration had. I came back later on to that same video and it had less dislikes. And I'm not talking about, 100 or 200. Like when I initially saw, let's just say, I'm just throwing out a number. I can't remember exactly. Let's just say it was like 50,000 dislikes and 1,000 likes. Now that ratio was accurate. The likes there wasn't many. I came back and there was like 20,000 dislikes. And I was like, that's interesting. What happened there? It seems like this to me. I'm going to tell you what I think in my mind. Regular people have a voice. Normal people have a say. Normal people have reach. And the political establishment monster does not like it, and they want it to end.
Accurate content. And their algorithms tend to give us more of what we click on, pulling us deeper and deeper into a well of misinformation. Now, we need an all-of-society approach to fight misinformation, and that's
an all-of-society approach to fight disinformation. That seems like a pretty, irrelevant saying, right? Doesn't seem like that means much. But what does he mean by all-of-society approach? Is he saying that we need to snitch on our neighbors when they do something we don't like? We need to report people when they do something that we don't like? Since when are we in this space that we need to be this hyper focused on I'm trying to figure out how to put it. This hyper focus on using the arm of the government against things we don't like. I remember when I was growing up, there was many things you kind of learn just by default. One of those things was, if you don't like something, you don't participate. You don't like what somebody says, you leave. Just simple things like that. I remember growing up. Now, I wasn't a believer when I was younger. I didn't get saved till I was 20. I was still young, but I'm talking about when I was young and in the house. I remember hearing Christians, who had problems with certain things that were on TV and certain things that were in music. And I remember I remember specifically how the world responded to that, right? Because I was one of these people. The saying was, well, if you don't like it, turn it off. You don't have to listen. It seems like now all of a sudden we want a different approach. It seems like now all of a sudden, if there's things out there, information that we don't like, we need to shut down that information. I don't like that. I don't think that's a good idea, and I don't like the direction this is going in.
That's why this advisory that I issued today has recommendations for everyone. First, we include recommendations for individuals and families. We ask people to raise the bar for sharing health information by checking sources before they share, to ensure that information is backed by credible scientific sources. As we say in the advisory.
Okay, and here's my problem with that. There is a lot of information when it comes to the coronavirus, right? When you hear statements like science is settled, that's actually a laughable statement. Let's take that statement and let's apply that statement to the coronavirus. What people believe about treatments, what people believe about how to stay healthy, what people believe about how, and when I say people, I mean scientists, credentialed scientists, what they believe about mask wearing or not mask wearing, what they believe about the different medications that can help with COVID. There is vast disagreements among credentialed, well-respected doctors and scientists, right? So what does he mean by credible sources? Is it the sources that he agrees with? Is it the sources that the establishment agrees with? This is the problem I have with this. I think all of this, in my opinion, is very problematic.
If you're not sure, don't share. Second, we're asking health organizations to proactively address misinformation with their patients. Today, the American Academy of Pediatrics is announcing an educational campaign to help parents navigate online health information.
Now, I'm going to tell you right now why I have a problem with this, and I'm going to tell you a story by myself. Well, not my youngest daughter. My youngest daughter, I want to say she was 1 or 2. I can't remember exactly. It was 1 or 2. I know she was young, getting all her vaccinations, booster shots, whatever. Now, this has to deal with whether you can. This is the problem I have with what he's saying. You shouldn't blanketly trust anyone. Now, that doesn't mean you can't trust doctors. That doesn't mean you can't trust pediatricians, right? But everything should be able to be questioned. If you can't question something, you should have a question about that. All right, so my youngest daughter got vaccinated. It was a booster shot or something like that. She got a fever directly after getting vaccinated. That fever lasted for a whole week. We could not break it. We brought her back in to her pediatrician. We told her what happened. Hey, look, she got vaccinated. Within an hour, it probably was even shorter than that, like 30 minutes, she had a fever. That fever, it took a week to break that fever. I want to say it was like a week and a half. Her pediatrician told us with a straight face that fever and that reaction had absolutely nothing to do with the vaccination. She said it was highly unlikely. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I have not studied medicine, but I'm also not stupid. There's no way my daughter gets vaccinated, has a fever, 30 minutes later, that fever lasts a week, and it has nothing to do with that vaccination. To this day, whenever my daughter got sick, she's 16 now, when she has a fever, normally, my experience with all my other kids and me personally, I get a fever, it may last 2 days. At the most, 3 days. That's the most I've ever gone with a fever while taking medicine and other things. My youngest daughter, when she has a fever, at a bare minimum, it's going to be 7 days. It's going to be hard to break. Here's another interesting thing. So she decided to do school online indefinitely once the pandemic and all of that stuff happened. Easier for her. She likes it more, whatever, what have you. She hasn't been sick since. Now, that you could say that that's an argument for quarantining, right? I mean, the bottom line is kids are, for lack of a better word, kids are disgusting. They don't wash their hands. They do all kind of things. That's just, I mean, it's always a running joke when kids go to school. Parents normally get sick within a week to 2 weeks of kids going to school. Kids just playing everything, right? But it's kind of a side note, but the fact that that pediatrician told us that her having that fever 30 minutes, it was 30 to 45 minutes after getting that vaccine, and that fever lasting for a week plus had nothing to do with the vaccine. Again, in my opinion, I would have been a fool to believe that pediatrician. Now, I don't know why the pediatrician said that to us. I've been told, and I don't know this to be true, so I'm not saying this as dogmatic truth. Right? I'm not saying this for anybody to share this video and go, "Oh, Brooke Nom said this, so it's true." That's not what I'm doing. But I have been told that pediatricians are encouraged not to say anything negative about vaccines. I have a problem with that.
I'm encouraged to see this commitment. And again, this is just the beginning. Third, we're asking educational institutions to help improve health information literacy. We're asking researchers.
Oh, so I wonder if these educational institutions are going to talk about eating right. I wonder if they're going to talk about exercise. I wonder if they're going to talk about obesity, because these are all things that contribute to sickness in general, right? There, if you want to do something, look up the statistics in the United States for obesity, high blood pressure, and all of the things that are caused as a result of those things. I mean, it's a real problem. Like, it is a huge problem. But I've never, in my 42 years on this earth, seen anything from any public health official about any emergency actions because of those things. And believe me when I tell you, it's a much bigger problem than COVID, a much bigger problem by orders of magnitude. But yet, is there anything from any Surgeon General about eating right, watching what you take in, exercising, obesity? See, this is my problem. My problem is their response to COVID and the things surrounding COVID is so lopsided that it doesn't make sense. I'm not telling you what that means. I'm just telling you it doesn't make sense.
And foundations as well to help us learn more about how health information spreads and how to stop it. Today, the Rockefeller Foundation is announcing a $13.5 million commitment to counter health misinformation.
Okay, the Surgeon General of the United States, this is a government official, is talking about a private business, private citizen, private company that's donating money to help with health misinformation. Now, private citizens often donate money to different causes, surrounding the government. That happens. I find this situation specifically problematic because it seems like the government is partnering with or pressuring social media companies, right? Which everybody always says they're private companies, they can do what they want. Well, what happens when these private companies are doing what they do at the behest of the government? It's almost as though the government is outsourcing its air quotes unconstitutional authority to abstain from any liability. I'm not telling you that that's what's going on. I'm telling you I have questions, and I'm not going to stop thinking just because somebody will label me as a conspiracy theorist for thinking. Nah, I'm good. I'll keep using my brain.
The Digital Public Library of America is announcing that they will convene a set of librarians, scholars, journalists, and civic leaders to confront health misinformation together.
All right, so they're getting together a misinformation task force. That's what that sounds like to me. I'm telling you, I am not telling you the sky's falling. I'm not telling you there's some grand conspiracy, but I am telling you this sounds like the start of something that's not good, that doesn't work within our favor. Look at something like the Patriot Act. There were people, I remember I was still in the military at the time when the Patriot Act was being pushed, and there was people that were doing the same thing I'm doing and that were saying, yo, I get it. We want to be safe. I get it. Some things happen. But yo, I'm not sure this Patriot Act, I'm not sure this is the way to go. I'm not sure this is it. I'm just saying. And I don't think there's many people who are in favor of the Patriot Act right now. Maybe I'm wrong.
Fourth, we are saying we expect more from our technology companies. We're asking them to operate with greater transparency and accountability. We're asking them to monitor misinformation more closely.
A government official asking a private organization to monitor misinformation. It is almost as though they're saying the quiet parts now out loud, right? Many people who are considered to be conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat, kind of people, have always said they're monitoring this, they're monitoring that, and people write them and blow them off. He's saying they're requesting these private companies to do these things. Government agencies use private contractors all the time to do things to, skirt responsibility. There have been movies made about this stuff. There have been countless whistleblowers who talk about these things. Now they're saying the quiet parts out loud. To me, the things that this gentleman is saying is alarming. And it's not because, again, I'm trying to be clear and letting you know that I'm not saying that he's part of some grand conspiracy to do X, Y, and Z. I'm just saying none of this is good and none of this leads to a good place, whether he understands that or not.
Asking them to consistently take action against misinformation super spreaders on their platforms. Fifth,
that's going to be the next buzzword. You're going to hear that everywhere, misinformation super spreaders.
We're also asking news organizations to proactively address the public's questions.
Oh, now they're directing news agencies and telling them what to do. None of this is good. Now, right now, this all seems innocent, and maybe it's coming from a good place, but this is the problem. There are a lot of things that start from a good place that doesn't mean those things are good.
Without inadvertently giving a platform to health misinformation that can harm their audiences. And sixth, we know that government can play an important role too, by investing in research, by bringing individuals and organizations together to address misinformation, and by supporting groups.
The government bringing individuals together to fight misinformation. Now, I love my country. I've served my country. But if you think that the government is free from propaganda and misinformation, they have whole departments for this very thing. But ridiculing us, and see this, and this is what I mean. I'm torn on this. Not torn on how I feel about this, but I'm torn on whether I believe these people are just ignorantly doing things that lead to bad things, or if they're willingly doing these things with some ulterior motives. I don't know that. I wish I did know that, but I'm not God. I don't know men's hearts. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like I said, maybe they just think they're doing something good. The problem is you can set something in place, right? Like let's say you are a genuinely good and honest person, and you say, you know what, in order for me to protect this person, I'm going to grant myself the authority to stop this from happening. And for you, it works out great. For the people, it works out great because you're good and you're honest. But let's say that the person that comes behind you now takes this power and uses this power for no other reason but to empower themselves and to hurt the people. You started something for a good reason, but it only had one conclusion and you couldn't see that. I don't know if that's what's going on here, but I don't like where this is going.
Groups that are working on this issue. On a personal note, it's painful for me to know that nearly every death we are seeing now from COVID-19 could have been prevented.
Now, so what he's saying, right? Now, if I'm just being a layman, listen to what he's saying. So, sir, you telling me that the vaccine will cure and prevent COVID? If that's the case, people who are vaccinated should not be required to still wear masks anywhere, but yet they are. This is what I'm saying. There's things that don't make sense. Now, he's going to say something about his children that to me is very telling. And I don't know how young or old this gentleman's children are. Maybe they're too young. I don't know, but you're gonna see here in a second.
I say that as someone who has lost 10 family members to COVID-19 and who wishes each and every day that they had had the opportunity to get vaccinated.
Emotional appeals don't really tickle my fancy. I don't really. The older I get, the more when it comes to the government trying to get me to do or think something in a certain way, I don't like emotional appeals because to me that seems like manipulation. And I've been manipulated many times on emotional appeals and I don't like it. And most times when I see emotional appeals, I think there's some manipulation behind it. I'm not saying that that's true about this situation. It may not be, but I don't like it. Just give me some facts, give me some data, and let me make a decision.
I say that also as a concerned father of 2 young children who aren't yet eligible for the vaccine.
Did you hear what he just said? His children are not yet eligible for the vaccine. Now, I don't know anything about how old you have to be to have the vaccine, not have the vaccine. I don't know. Maybe I should have looked that up before making this video. I haven't. But I know I have seen several people argue that young children should be vaccinated. Children as young as like kindergarten age, right? I don't know. Another thing I would have a question about is, why are they too young to be vaccinated? What is it about this vaccine that prohibits a young person from being vaccinated? Is it something we should worry about? Why didn't he go over these things? I just find it odd that his children are not vaccinated. I find that very odd. Again, not saying that he's behind some grand conspiracy. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is this should, as much as people who lean more left argue this should be a matter of personal choice and not a matter of the government forcing you to do anything.
But I know that our kids are depending on all of us to get vaccinated to shield them from this virus.
So again, by implication, he's saying that if you get the vaccine, you will prevent other people from getting COVID. So one, why are people who are vaccinated still required to do all the social distancing, mask and all that, especially like, let's say in airports, right? And second, why are there people? This is not hearsay. This is not conspiracy theory. There are people who have been vaccinated who are catching COVID-19.
Every week, I talk to doctors and nurses across our country who are burning out as they care for more and more patients.
And here's, again, the whole doctors and nurses thing. I don't know how much you know about this, but there was America's Frontline Doctors, right? Controversial doctors, but doctors. These are not crackpots. They don't have made up degrees. They were actual doctors. and they said that they had things that they could do to treat COVID, and none of their patients have been in the emergency room. None of their patients have died. Now, I think it was like 10 or 15 doctors, or maybe more of them. So yeah, maybe that's anecdotal. But why is it that we're always only encouraged to listen to the experts that agree with them? Look, I'm a student of the Bible. There are many Bible scholars that don't agree. I don't just go read behind scholars that only agree with what I think. I listen to many people who think differently than me. And if I was to tell somebody, only listen to the people I tell you to listen to, I'm sure people will probably go, wait, hold up. Well, if you're right, then I should be able to hear something different than you to get what somebody else is saying, and it should be all good. There's only one conclusion I'm gonna come to, correct? The problem I have is, why is it that it seems as though, and maybe I'm mistaken, maybe I'm taking this man's words out of context, and if I am, I apologize. That's definitely not my intention, but it seems as though they only want you to listen to the professionals they agree with. Anybody who's been in anything serious medically, it's a common practice to get a second opinion. Why is that a common practice? Because this is a serious matter, and it is possible for health professionals to be wrong. They are not perfect, nor are they superhuman in their understanding.
With COVID-19 who never got vaccinated, all too often because they were misled by misinformation.
So it can never be that I just maybe want to see more data. That has nothing to do with misinformation. This is a new vaccine, mRNA modification technology is a fairly new thing. It's been researched for a little bit, but this is a fairly new thing. It was rushed out. It's not yet FDA approved. Those are all valid reasons to not want to take this vaccine. Not that I trust the FDA and not that I trust the CDC. I'm just saying, these are not crackpot reasons. These are good reasons to sit back and say, no, I'm going to hold off. Let me see how this plays out for a little bit before I make a decision on that. I don't like the fact that it seems like they're rushing people into this. The government telling you what to do medically, I don't like it.
We must confront misinformation as a nation. Every one of us has the power and the responsibility to make a difference in this fight. Lives are depending on it.
And who decides what misinformation is? Who makes that decision? Again, there's many doctors and physicians that have, and these are respected doctors and physicians that have differing opinions than other doctors and physicians on how to treat COVID, what to do about it, whether or not to take the vaccine. So who decides what is misinformation?
You can read the full advisory at surgeongeneral.gov/health misinformation. And I hope that you will see it as I do, as a starting point from which we can build a healthier information environment, safeguard our nation against future threats, and ultimately empower people to lead healthier lives. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, so I was gonna go into another video, which I might go into that video too with Kamala Harris. That video is a whole different animal. But hopefully I conveyed my thoughts accurately. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from. Hopefully you understand my hesitation to wholeheartedly accept the things that he's saying. I don't like it. I think it's dangerous. I think we are fastly approaching that point where the government has well overstepped its boundaries constitutionally. I have a right to speak freely. That right to speak freely means that sometimes I'm going to say things people don't like. People have said things that I don't like. Now, as a believer, The problem I have with what they're saying, see, it goes a lot deeper than just medical misinformation. What happens if they tell me, well, creation is scientific misinformation and you can no longer espouse that idea publicly? You can no longer make any videos or say anything in any public forum supporting creation because that is scientific misinformation. Again, this is why I said, who decides what is misinformation? And if you think this doesn't matter, you are greatly bamboozled. I hope people are paying attention, and I don't want us to be bamboozled. And I don't want us to be bamboozled into giving our rights away. Yeah, what a predicament to be in. I just realized I transitioned to the wrong scene. This is the scene from my other podcast, but anyway, y'all know what it is. Stay frosty, people.